Hey everybody, it's Eduardo Jackson, CEO, founder, creator of the Cinema Draft game. And about ready to embrace a life without sound effects. I guess they're turning those off in Google Hangouts next week. So we'll put our hands together to welcome friend of the pod, fam of the pod, Jay Devlin. How you doing, Jay?
I'm great, man. I'm back. Bummed I missed earlier in the week with the Hebrew Hammer, who rose from the ashes like a phoenix to a second place finish last week.
Yes, and talk all that ish and not submit a call sheet. Well played, Hebrew Hammer.
Yeah, well played. That's very Hebrew Hammer of him, but totally different week this week than last week. Totally different, and a pretty fun week. I think a week like this is why this game can be fun. And as my man the Roan said in the chat, quoting me, I love being quoted, Ed, because I'm a fucking narcissist.
I'll keep that in mind.
This week, the game will be won in the margins.
There you go. All right, let's dive into these margins, damn it. See what people are thinking. And you mentioned in our pre-show chat that there was a basic strategy going on. Now, were you part of this basic strategy? Because if so, then let's take a look at your.
I think so. I think the basic strategy was this. I'm not saying it wasn't 4 or 5 movies, but it was Fate of the Furious,
okay,
and both of the Born in China actors.
Interesting. I kind of stumbled onto that, and I went with it, but I didn't know if anyone else had seen that. Okay.
Yeah, that was I think that was the basic strategy. You took those 3, so it's basically a 7 movie week this week in Cinema Draft.
Oh wow, and that's pretty big. We're usually used to value clustering around a few, top movies or top of their release type movies. So it's a 7 movie. Oh, are you saying it's a 7 slot week? Is what you're saying?
It's a 7 slot week because I think you need those 3.
Yes.
If you don't have those 3, you probably can't win. But once you have those 3, then it's who picked 7 movies better than the other guy. And all these movies are so grouped together this week as far as projection goes. It's kind of fun. Then at that point, you're kind of just looking at who's in what movie, who do you think is a bigger star, which is kind of what the game is all about anyway. It's not about looking at a projection and having like the computer tell you who to pick. You have to
at least not yet. We know. It was funny because in our spreadsheet days, Jay Bird would just kick my ass. He won. We had like 10-week seasons, and he won all 4 seasons. Just ran away with this shit, and it was kind of frustrating. But I was also very curious. Like, I was like, "How did you do what you did?" So I had before I had a podcast, I just did like a video interview with him, and he told me that he basically, made or figured out some sort of like optimizer or whatever, and just kind of went at it. And it was easier because he was dealing just with the spreadsheet back then. He's been campaigning to have downloadable CSV files, which we will get to someday. But it was just very funny because he basically did like his version of an optimizer, and that's why he kept kicking my ass. So I can see a future where that's probably part of the game, but you also have to feel the zeitgeist, and and it's a little bit different than players with historical averages and stuff when you're dealing with unique movies every week.
I like to think there's a little artistry still involved in almost everything in life. It's not all been figured out by an algorithm. So
absolutely.
Let me rephrase real quick. It actually is a 6 movie week this week because there's only 1 platform movie.
So good point. Yes.
So I apologize for that. So everybody has either Anne Hathaway or whoever the other. Somebody has a headliner from Colossal is the point. So it's actually a 6 movie week, not a 7 movie week.
Yeah, good point. And actually, that kind of threw us for a loop because before I look out usually about 3 or 4 months in advance and kind of line up all potential movies we could put into the talent pool, and I try to get a gauge of like what their release pattern is. Sometimes Box Office Mojo helps you and tells you, sometimes they don't. And with something like Free Fire, they didn't really say what they expected the release to be. I didn't know if it was going to be on a lot of screens, so I just kind of assumed it was going to be platform because it seemed like a smaller movie. It sounds like a lot of fun, but it seemed like a smaller movie. So I assumed it was going to be platform. For it to jump out on 1,070 screens was kind of a shock. So I was kind of caught my pants down a little bit. I mean, I guess you could throw in Citizen Jane for some color, but there really wasn't any platform movie out there that I was really checking for. Although I will say. Gamble 24/7 DM'd me and he said that I was surprised you didn't have Their Finest out there, and I said, well, I honestly couldn't find any kind of box office tracking for it as far as screen counts go, so I just kind of stayed away from it. I'm really trying to what scares me more than anything these weekends is when I can't get even like a ballpark screen count for something, then I'm afraid it might fall off like Slamma Jamma. There's nothing worse than a min price or a min value or not min a min scored movie throwing everyone's calculus off. So I won't say I won't even necessarily say it's my bad, because at least we have a representative from the platform release. This just kind of harkens back to the spreadsheet days when it was when I didn't have a site and I was dealing with 15 movies around around the trappings of a of a 9 to 5 job, 10 to 6 job, whatever. And I just had to keep things super simple. And sometimes we just have one movie and a release type. So this is a throwback week, definitely a throwback week.
Love it.
Annie Hathaways. All right. So your call sheet, just for the listeners at home, has Dwayne headliner from Jay the Fury.
It's the Bennigan's appetizer sampler, man. That's what it is. It's a sampler platter. I got some wings. I got some mozzarella sticks. I got a potato skin. I got a little bit of everything going on in here. I'm usually a fan of just stacking one movie and just kind of riding it out. But
sure,
in this case, this is a 10 headliner week. I think you needed to have 10 headliners.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because all these movies are all between like 2 million and like 3.7 million. They're all so close that it's a waste of time to not have a headliner from a movie. So
yeah, that's a good point. That's one thing I was thinking about when I was constructing my strategy. I was thinking, like in pure points, in cinema draft points, what will these things do generally? And sometimes using Box Office Pro as a template, but not necessarily as gospel, because I honestly think that Gifted is way too low. I think it's going to be closer to 4.5 to 5 million.
I agree with that. That shocked me how low that was. I faded it, I think, a little bit. I think I did in the free feature presentation, and I'm not happy I did. I think you're 100% right about that.
And so if you're looking at just raw points, and so so Box Office Pro is projecting 2.7 million for the weekend, which is just patently false. I mean, we can go back to last weekend, where it's per screen average, and obviously we know we're now a lot more well versed on how these per screen averages kind of flatten out as movies expand. But on its per screen average, Gifted was at 2,600. Let's say it goes down to 2,000 and it widens out to 1,986 screens. You're looking at almost 4 million, 3.97. So in raw points, you're looking at 7.94 points. And as a headliner, that's 11 points for your top two actors. So just looking at stuff like that, I kept thinking in raw points, what are these all going to game out as? I was tempted. I was almost tempted to even roster some Unforgettable, as much as I hate that movie. But I honestly think that this 9 million might be a shade too high. This sucker can kind of crawl into 7.5 million, and Hollywood will be wringing its hands over stuff they should have foreseen.
But you priced it to move, though. That's the whole point. I mean, I get what you're saying about fading that movie. I don't think that movie is going to be fantastic either. But you priced it so far below Boss Baby and Beauty and the Beast, it was almost like, well, why not just throw both headliners in, take your 11 points, even if it does 7.5 or whatever, and move on with your day.
Right. And I was a little prideful, because I did. There were a couple times where I thought about messing with some Unforgettable, but I was like, you know what? I ragged on the movie so hard. There's no way I can justify putting it on my call sheet. So that might be my fatal flaw this week, just ignoring the obvious. But so here's my call sheet, and like you said, I worked my way up this weekend, or like I'm want to do. I started with the background talent and just kind of kept going, up in stakes, figuring out, as I went along. And this is kind of what I figured out was the best strategy, somewhere around the $30 key grip, which is basically, like you said, it's Fate the Furious headliner, Vin Diesel, the headliner stack from Born in China, which, once again, I mean, this is one of those weird, hinky type of weekends, because Born in China is a documentary. It stars all pandas, and the only actors of note are two voiceover artists, John Krasinski for the American version and Zhu Zun for the Chinese version. And because it's going to make an impact at the box office, it is Earth Day weekend. So I figured we got to throw it in there. These Earth Day movies actually tend to do pretty well. This 5 million might be a shade low, to be honest with you.
It's going to be 100% owned. I mean, everybody. I mean, if you don't have those two movies in, you can't win this week.
Oh, wow. Yeah, bold call. And at a limited release type on 1,500 something screens, I mean, you're basically looking at 10 to 12 points starting off, plus a headliner bonus of to 16.8, 17 points. So
Well,
Born in
see, okay,
China,
real
that's
quick, let's talk about your strategy real quick. So you have two actors who are not headliners, right?
yes. I stacked Gifted because I thought that at just under 2,000 screens, keeping it a limited release, I think that that's going to be the play there. I think that it's wildly undervalued.
Okay, so
On
let's say what do you think it's going to do? Like even like top end, you said like 3.9, right? Was your
that
top
that that's
for
that's my realistic count. I think top end it could do 4.5. So let's split the difference, say
but
4.2.
why not just take two headliners from like a movie like Free Fire or a movie like The Promise, which are projected to do slightly better than Gifted, which they won't do exponentially worse, but get the headliner bonus.
So if we take them at their words, I honestly have no idea like what The Promise is going to do, because this is a movie which I honestly think is way too wide for its own good. I don't see where the audience is for this movie. And I only say that because it's historical fiction, which isn't terrible. I actually saw Lost City of Z last night, which is pretty good, and that's historical fiction, but it's shot and distributed like an elevated art house movie, and that's kind of where, if the Promise had been on like 450 to 700 screens, I would have been all over. At 2,000 something screens, it's going to die a very hard death. It's about the Armenian extinction in and like 1900s Ottoman Empire, and I just don't see, outside of those niche communities in the United States, I don't understand where they're going to get their audience from, even with an attractive cast like Christian Bale and
Yeah,
Oscar
but
Isaac.
box office, that's $100 million movie. I mean, that's not like some like fly by night movie they shot in somebody's backyard. I mean, that's got star power. It's got money behind it.
I promise
A24.
you,
It's a big theater.
I promise you, it's not even a $50 million movie. It's probably, well,
I
actually,
thought I
let's look
saw
this
a
up.
headline that said Christian Bale's $100 million movie is going to fail.
Oh, I mean, and honestly, it's funny because I was seeing like some more ads about it. And it could be. I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, it looks like $1 million, but the way it's being, God, yeah, we have no idea what the budget is. If it is 100 million, I wouldn't be surprised because it looks like $1 million. I know period pieces you can do it on either the real cheap or you can do it really expensive. And it seemed like there's some explosions, so it seems like that could be on the expensive end. But I honestly don't see how anyone greenlit that much money for that movie when it's not going to do what we think it's going to do. I mean,
90 million,
it's
90. The Promise, directed by Terry George. Yeah, $90 million budget.
oh my lord, someone's losing their job over that. I promise you, someone is losing their damn job. Okay.
Yeah, but that's my point. So it's a 90. Like it can still tank, but
Mhm.
do 3 million. I mean, you just
Okay,
don't throw
so at
90
3 million wide release times,
and that's bottom barrel 3 million. All right,
right?
but then
That's only 4.2 points of the headliner bonus.
but that's
I'm
still
still
more than that's still more. You're still getting more points than Gifted.
No,
And
you're
what
not, because Gifted at limited. If we're doing
they're
four
both
point,
limited, aren't they?
no. The Promise is on two. This is why I steer clear of The Promise, because this motherfucker's on 2,000 screens, 2,251 screens.
Okay, yeah. You're
This is
right.
this is the studio equivalent of a slamma jamma. This shit
Yeah.
is open wide. Someone owed someone a favor. Someone, I don't know what happened there. Maybe it was part of a Vandy deal on Christian Bale at some studio. I don't know. But this thing is going to flop. It's going to flop hard on a wide release. Like I said, if this was even limited, I might have given it a shot. It's a wide release. That's why I'm steering way clear of it.
No, I agree with that. You're 100% right about that.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna. I mean, so I figured Gifted. I mean, so if we're looking at our limited releases, Born in China is probably gonna lead the way on pure box office. I don't know what this is. Another one, Phoenix Forgotten. I have zero buzz. I've seen maybe one or two commercials, if that, and I watch a ton of TV. I mean, Free Fire is gonna outperform Phoenix Forgotten, but Born in China is gonna be your leader, and then I think Gifted's gonna be like tucked in about 1 million behind it, because look at all those screens. I mean, for limited release, this is probably one of the highest limited releases we've ever seen. So
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
gonna it's gonna. I mean, it's not gonna necessarily crush at the box office, but if it does 4.2, which basically is 8.4 points, and then your headliner bonus of 40%, you're gonna almost 12 points, for your two headliners, and then almost 9 points for the non-headliners. So this to me was like a clear choice over something like, say, The Promise. I wanted nothing to do with The Promise. I honestly thought it was over released. It's too wide for its own good. It's gonna flop hard, and someone's gonna lose their job.
Yeah, but if I don't disagree with that, but I'm just saying, like, I mean, I only have one guy from The Promise, and it was because I had like 5,700 left. and I could get a headliner from it. And if it, at 5,700, if you're getting a top 7 movie that does like 3 million, I mean, you can do worse than that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not bad. Let's take a look at Michael Vontaze. He's a big time supporter on social media and a fairly recent addition to our group chat. Definitely check it out if you've yet to join and take part of the shenanigans.
10
And it looks like
headliners.
he's 10. He's got he has the J Devlin mandated 10 headliner a mega stack.
10
Looks like
headliners will win the feature presentation this week. Calling it now.
he's calling it now. He's got so unless I say otherwise, a call sheet has a Fade the Furious headliner. All right, let's put that as a given.
Yeah.
He also has the Born in China stack, Unforgettable stack, which I mean,
I have that as well.
it's not a bad look. I just
No.
wonder about the price at 9,500, 9,200. I just kind of wonder if
where else would you spend the money? That's the point. You priced them. It was almost impossible to fade them because you were getting so much value at the bottom with like Free Fires and Born in China and Gifted. Like all these movies were sub 8,000. Fuck, just give me the number 2 or 3 movie for the week at 9,200, 95 with headliners. And
because you have the money, you got money to burn. Yeah, it's like all those calls, like all those lineups with Jerry and Grant this tonight. It's good. All right, so 2,700 locked in. Now you've got 47K left. It's like, where do I spend the money?
And again, I'm wrong in this game all the time. But here's my question: Why not have a headliner from Boss Baby? It's going to be number 2. I mean, there's no reason not to have the number 2 movie of the week at 9.5 million, whatever it does, as a headliner. On a week you can afford anything.
And I totally agree. And I actually have a couple calls. Like I started off with that construction. I think like my background talent construction had Fade the Furious, Boss Baby, and like and maybe actually I might have even squeaked in a Boss Baby stack. But I was really keen on getting a 4-pack of Gifted, and then I might have stumbled on the Born in China around like the gaffer, the $20 gaffer. But to finish up for people listening, this call sheet, Michael Volante's got the Unforgettable headliner stack. He's got the Gifted headliner stack. He's got the Free Fire headliner stack, and he's got Jason Sudeikis from Colossal. And actually, Colossal, let's just talk about that one real quick because it is our mandatory platform release that you have to have. And what's interesting about this is that it's expanding by another 113 screens. It's done pretty well per screen average at the box office. It's just really it's one of those ones where actually what did it do last weekend? I believe it did like almost 5K per screen on 98 screens. For whatever reason, it's gotten like really good reviews. People are still kind of checking for it. Yeah, 4,600. Let's just say it flattens out to, worst case scenario, 3,500, and it's on 211 screens. You're looking at 738,000. That's 7 points right there, pure raw. And then with the headliner buzz, you're almost at 10 points. That's kind of exciting. So that's why headliner stacked Colossal.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you might be one of the few people who has 2 Colossals.
I know that was my differentiator. I was thinking, all right, this maybe put me a little out of vogue, but I think I'm gonna, because people are gonna like take their headliner from Colossal like eating their broccoli. It's fine, but I like broccoli. I put butter on it. I eat it up all the time. So I'm going back for seconds. Damn it. Ring balls. Let's take a look at ring balls real quick, and let's see if he is followed the pattern. Yes, he also has the Fade the Furious, Born in China. Troika, I guess you could say. He also has a headliner stack from Gifted, another 10 headliner call sheet, Jay Devlin.
Yeah, I like I said, you got to have 10 headliners. End of story.
Yep. Colossal, Unforgettable, Free Fire, and then he even has a little Lost City of Z. Bless his heart. It's just not on enough screens, but actually, you might be honest with the Lost City of Z. I saw like a midnight screening. The theater was, I'd say, about maybe 40% full, even on a small theater. So, which is actually really good for a movie like this, which is 2.5 hours long, historical fiction, into the heart of the jungle. It's just not an easy sell. And actually, let's end. So many returning faces. Welcome back, Smart Ash. We love you. Ring Balls 22. Also, actually, just look at your call sheet. Gamble 24/7. Actually, he is our returning champion. Our call sheet of the week. So let's take a quick look at his. Then we'll take a look at Drew.Zod as a newcomer. Then we'll sign off. He also Gamble 24/7 has Unforgettable headliner stack. He does the Born in China as well. Free Fire headliner stack. Oh, he's got 3 actors from Unforgettable. Okay, he's put his money where his belief is. And then Gifted, non-headliner. Interesting. This one's got potential. I just think it'll be interesting to see how closely scored to your what you said the optimal strategy was this week with the Troika, plus also maybe getting in some having a 10 headliner stack, because he doesn't have 10 headliners, he has 8, and that slight difference might be just enough to keep him outside of the top 5 in what's going to be, once again, a very tightly packed top of the feature presentation ticket.
Yeah, I mean, here's a situation where if a movie like Free Fire goes like absolutely apeshit, then he's going to make up the difference of not having 10 headliners by having both headliners to Free Fire. I haven't seen a lot of lineups, I don't think, with multiple Free Fire headliners.
Yeah, a lot of call sheets,
have one
going different directions. But I will say this with Free Fire though, because it's getting a lot of love. Like it's super buzzy right now. And when I got to the theater last night, like at midnight, I had a choice. I was like, okay, do I go for like a 90-minute, shoot 'em up like Free Fire, which will probably be really fun, or go for like the longer, drawn out Lost City of Z, which is going to be emotional and pretty. And then I probably should have gone Free Fire, but I did have a good time with Lost City of Z. I went for the longer, more drawn out one. It's a good movie, 3 reels, a really beautiful ending, and it looks like a watercolor painting by Bob Ross. That's the best way to kind of describe it. All right, so Drew.Zod, newcomer, welcome to the fold, Drew.Zod, and as a newcomer, he's bound to have a few newcomer mistakes, which is fine. He does, though, hone in on Fate the Furious headliner, so we got that correct. He has this is definitely a Bennigan's platter, because he does have 8 headliners, so that's a nuance that a lot of newcomers often overlook. But he's got some movies that aren't going anywhere this week. Going in Style is just going to plateau around 5 or 6 million. It's too wide for its own good. Kong Skull Island has made its money. It's not making any more money. Logan, headline from Logan. Logan's done. I mean, that really should be platformed by now. Jesus, just let that go, guys. And Phoenix Forgotten is the wild card. Look, I've heard nothing about this movie. If this thing performs, we can all have egg on his face. But there's a reason why it's 5,100. What does Jalen Rose like to say? He's open for a reason.
He's open for a reason. He's with us. He with us.
Yes, Jalen Rose. He's open for a reason. So there's a reason why Florence Hardigan as a headliner is 5,100, because there's zero buzz on Phoenix Forgotten. But we could be wrong. That's the best part about this game.
Well, first off, I'm not going to rip that, because I have Phoenix Forgotten in my lineup.
Oh, was that a pure salary play with Stars and Scrubs construction?
Yeah, I mean, 5,100. I mean, it's projected to do 2 million.
Is it really? Who are these people? Who are these people? You're right, 2 million. Wow, who are these people?
So like 5,100 bare bottom, 2 million with a headliner. I'm fine with that. When Gifted is only projected to do an extra million above that. No, there's nothing wrong with Phoenix Forgotten at all.
Well, great turnout again in the feature presentation. Big shout out to JJ11 in her second week. The Roan, friend of the group chat. Nadine Harlem, my godmother's back. Welcome back. And mom, draft mom, she didn't submit a call sheet this week in the feature presentation, but I do believe she's in the background talent. And we're just gonna make fun of G Nice. We had such good fun with them on the podcast this week.
What were your? I was a little jammed up this week. What were your 3 basketball movies you guys talked about on the pod?
Oh, we had some really good ones. So my 3, it's really funny how this went too, because we all thought we knew what the other ones was going to be, and we were totally wrong. I can't believe people didn't see me coming with White Man Can't Jump. That's my second favorite movie of all time.
That's number 1.
It's my number 1 basketball movie of all time, but it's my second favorite movie of all time. I mean, Boomerang, of course, takes the cake. But I'm just saying, I mean, I was actually ready to end my friendship with G Nice, because like, how do you not know that White Man Can't Jump is my number 1 basketball movie when it's my second favorite movie of all time? Of course, it completes me. And so that was my number 1. I believe KG went second. Our Chocolate Cardinal. He did Hoosiers, which kind of surprised me. I thought he was just kind of punking Greg, because
Hoosiers after White Man Can't Jump is the obvious choice.
Well, I'm not saying it's not the obvious choice, but
Yeah.
considering his sensibilities, I thought KG was going to go for what, of course, is the obvious number three, which is Love and Basketball, which to me
Oh
is actually
God.
number two because I think
Oh
Hoosiers. I mean,
God.
Hoosiers is
Stop
great.
it.
Some
Stop it.
parts of Hoosiers doesn't necessarily hold up,
Look,
like I would like it to. That's all
I
I'm
love
saying.
Son of Lathan as much as the next guy, but that movie is whatever. That movie is May
No,
compared
no,
to
no, no, no. See
it's
that'll get
fine.
you shot in some corners. We ride hard for Love and Basketball.
Who's
That's
we?
actually
Who's
we
we? I'm a
we
fan
as
of basketball
as in
movies.
people, as in lovers of cinema and
But
basketball
but
movies.
if you're
It's awesome.
choosing three movies, three, that's it. I'm not saying Love and Basketball is not a good movie. It's fine. Above the Rim is an exponentially better basketball movie than Love and Basketball is.
So
Because
that was the funny thing is that was like my number three pick because my three were White Man Can't Jump, because as per the rules of the game, like once someone picks a movie, it's off the board, so I couldn't do everything I liked, but
Celtic Pride.
mine was mine. No, come on, mine was White Man Can't Jump,
What?
He Got Game, and then
Juana
Above the
Man?
Rim. Above the rim. Stop. See, stop. Now you're trying to mock all us Love and Basketball people. Do
I
yourself a
am.
favor.
I'm
Do a straw
absolutely
poll
mocking.
of your friends who, both male and female, and about Love. Ask them whether they enjoyed Love and Basketball more versus Hoosiers. Tell what the results are.
And
Just
here's the
really
point. The
serious.
name of the movie is Love and Basketball. So
It's
basketball
incredible.
plays a backseat to love. That's a love movie.
I will
All right.
play for your heart. That's
The
awesome.
the total the name of the movie alone discounts it in my category. He Got Game. Way better than Love and Basketball. He Got Game was
So
tremendous.
now, okay, I will say this. I now the basketball action in He Got Game. Sure, the basketball action in these movies. I mean, if you want to talk about pure basketball action, probably the best basketball action is somewhere around like Above the Rim. I mean, that's got
Well,
some great action.
Blue
Yeah.
chips would be probably
Blue chips, you're right. Blue chips,
yeah.
they're actually playing. They're playing for real. I get that. But I mean, I'm talking about as a complete movie, as a movie experience. I mean, there are people who, I mean, Love and Basketball is on like the top shelf of people's DVD collections. Like how people say, oh, on their wall is Martin and Malcolm and Biggie. Love and Basketball is on the wall along with
Stop.
Martin and Malcolm and Biggie for people who love just even films. I mean, it's just such a great fun experience that we loved, and I'm totally biased because I saw Love and Basketball in a screening, in a rough cut screening, 6 months before it debuted. No one had heard of Sanaa Lathan. I'd barely even heard of her, and I just fell in love with her. I had a book at the time that I was pushing called Ever After. The main character named Jasmine, and I saw her. I'm like, oh my God, she's my Jasmine, and I've been in love with her ever since. And she's timeless. She looks the exact same. It's not fair. It's just not fair.
All right, well, I'm throwing two more out there, and then I'm signing off. Two more, and
Okay.
I don't again. I didn't listen to the pod. And I hope these were brought up. Hoop Dreams, easily
Yes.
in the
Yes.
top. Like,
That was a KG's second one. Yes.
yeah, and then KG's a genius. That's a great call because Hoop Dreams, might be the best basketball movie of all time. Honestly, it might be better than every other basketball movie ever made. And the
Yeah.
last one,
And at this point, I thought that KG seriously was just punking Greg because Greg's from Chicago, and he basically took the two Midwest movies off the board before Greg
oh,
could.
that's
So it was
cool.
awesome.
But then there's the movie, the timeless movie, that whenever this movie is on TV, I always end up watching it, regardless of where it is. The great, the legendary Michael J. Fox, Teen Wolf. Let's go. Let's go. Teen Wolf, unbelievable movie, ridiculous in every way possible, but fantastic basketball movie.
Teen Wolf was brought up. Now, of the two people remaining, who do you think brought it up?
You.
No, it
What?
was no. I told you my three. I
I had
said
faith in you.
it was G Nice, of course. The
Okay.
cultural misanthrope, the agent provocateur. Of course, he brought up Teen Wolf, and he rode hard for it. He made a very full throat defense. And you can hear me
I
sighing the
respect it.
entire time.
I respect it. Teen Wolf is what is wrong with Teen Wolf? What a great movie.
Oh God. You should, if you get a chance, you should probably watch that pod instead of because we were bringing up some of these pictures and stuff. It was just like we were just like kind of like dumbstruck at like how that. I mean, it works obviously. The '80s were a very strange and wonderful time, but my God, yes, that it was definitely brought up, and you nailed it. You nailed all the ones you mentioned were ones that were mentioned and had
That's
fairly
good.
solid defenses. It was pretty
How
fun.
about Fast Break with Gabe Kaplan? Was that brought up?
We ran. I mean, I think it was alluded to, but it was not an
Oh
official
man,
selection. No.
you guys covered them all. All right, that's
Well,
good to hear.
I mean, between the three of us, we had 9 films, so and we had to kind of keep it moving. Those pods are always fun, but they do take forever because we're always going to cultural cul-de-sacs. You'd like that one. We went to cultural cul-de-sacs and The Wire, and Billions, and I kept saying, "Oh man, I hope Jay Devlin jumps on because we're talking Billions now," and it was a good time.
Billions is throwing a perfect game. They're having like the Pedro Martinez like 2004 Red Sox season.
The,
I
the
mean,
Empire Strikes Back
yeah.
of its franchise so far, of its season. Yes, it's been outstanding. Well, thanks a lot, Jay Devlin. We've taken up too much of your time. I know we know you're a little ailing this week, so definitely get well soon. Plug your ish, man. What's going on with Mostly Sports? You on this
Yes,
week?
mostly sports. We moved times. Now we're on live Mondays at noon, 12 to
Oh,
2. So like we're reaching way more people instead of doing a
oh,
nighttime show on Tuesday nights, which is awesome. So Mondays live, iHeartRadio, UBN Radio, then catch us on iTunes, Facebook Live, all that bullshit. So mostly sports.
interesting. Okay, I'm very excited for that. Check Jay Devlin out. Mostly Sports. A live. So you guys are doing 2 shows a week now, or just the
No,
one?
one show a week. We just moved times. We were doing Tuesday
Okay,
nights. We wanted to get
gotcha.
more exposure, want more interaction with our listeners, and figured if we moved to a daytime show, a little drive time, it would be better. So
Well, hell,
this
I mean,
Monday will be our first Monday show.
by then I'll see if I can jump on and give you all some shit in the chat. Sounds like a good time.
Love it.
Sounds like a good time. And for us, Cinema Draft, go to cinemadraft.co. That is cinemadraft.co. Send your friends there. Send your friends of friends to sign up. Follow us on all of our social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, pretty much everywhere. Our corporate blog is medium.com/@cinemadraft. And subscribe at iTunes and YouTube and SoundCloud and wherever you find your fine podcasts. Thanks again, everybody, for listening. And it's a glorious weekend. We know it's bright outside. We know it's sunny. We know it's pool season. Or at least it is over at Cinema Draft headquarters. But still, why don't you go see a movie or something?